Last week I constructed a nighttime scene. In this video I'm going to make a light bulb to put in our lamp and illustrate how we can make it glow. There were some things in last week's scene I changed. I reduced the size of the moon up here, and I also reduced the size of the halo and decreased the opacity of the halo around it so it looks more natural. I also added a diffuse filter with an intensity of about 27%. Down here in the shadow that I really hated, I used the warp mesh tool to make it look like that it's on the ground a little bit better. And I turned the intensity of the diffuse filter up a tad and added a Gaussian blur. So those are some of the changes that I made to this scene. Now let's get started with our light bulb. I'm going to go to File and New, and I'm going to select A4 down here because I want it to be on a vertical thing, and I'm going to have a transparent background. So let's see where we are. Oh, here we go. Make sure there's a transparent background, and then I'm going to hit Create Document, and now I have a vertical document with a transparent background. Now I'm going to need to put a rectangle over this background because if I don't, we won't be able to see the glow around the light bulb. So this will only be temporary. So I'm going to select Rectangle and then put a rectangle around this, and then I'm going to give it a brown color. So I'm going to, in the hex right here, I used 59443 and A. Now I know that is not the most beautiful background that you can have, but all I needed was a background where I could just see what was going on with my light bulb. So before we export this out or before I copy it, I'll be turning the rectangle off. Now the first thing I need to do when doing the light bulb is to make the base. So I'm going to select the rounded rectangle tool, and then I'm going to draw a rounded rectangle like that. And the color that I'm going to use, the hex code for the color, is going to be a grayish color, and it's going to be 818181, and enter. So now we have a grayish color on this particular rounded rectangle. I also want to add a linear gradient, so I'm going to go over here and select gradient and pull the gradient down like that. So we have a gradient. Okay, now that we have the gradient on it, I can make the base of the light bulb. Now remember, on the bases of the light bulbs, it's got like little silver things at the bottom of the light bulb, and now I'm going to make those things. So I'm going to pull this down until it's fairly narrow, and then I'm going to make 4 copies. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll make 4 copies and then separate them out, and they're going to be on top of each other, and since I left my snapping on, it will be pretty easy to line them up. So there's 1, 2, there's 2 of them, and there's the third one and the fourth one, and then this last one. So now we have what starts for the base of our light bulb. Now I don't want this to be too perfect, so I'm going to turn these around a little bit, not a lot, but more or less light bulb bases, they're not perfect, and so I'm not going to do a whole lot of changing on these, just a little bit. So I think that's too much. I'm going to turn that back up just to where it looks like it's a little bit off, but they're all lined up. Now I'm going to make a copy of one of these rectangles right here and move it out of a group. So I need the copy, which is Control J, and then I'm going to move it out of the group. Now this particular rectangle is going to need to be on top of this stack right here. So I'm going to need to go Control bracket until I get it to be on top of the group. Okay, I need another control bracket. So now it's on top of the group because this is going to change a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in to, I'm going to have the gradient right here, and then I've got a linear gradient, and I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. That's all I'm really going to do because I need to have some kind of a contrast. So that's where I'm going to from here. So I'm going to make that light, not white, just light, and then go over here and make this a little lighter and go about there. I still want it to look like it's got the gradient on it because the point of the gradient for both this one and this one is to make our light bulb base not look so flat, and that's where I'm going with this. Okay, so once I get that, I'm going to click out of that, and then I'm going to resize this rectangle, make it a little bit shorter, a little bit narrower, and a little bit thinner. I can always, okay, I think, sometimes if I can't get it to go thinner, I can just zoom in a little bit and then I can get the thing that I want. So I'm going to make the rectangle a little bit thinner, and I'm going to put it over one of the rectangles so I can see if it's the size that I want, if I'm going to size it the way I want. Okay, make sure it's, let's click out of that. Even though that's a little off, I don't think, okay, let me see. Do that. So I'll put it on one of the rectangles, and I want to do a blend mode on this one. So for the blend mode, I'm going to change that to lighten. So I have a blend mode. Now I want this on each one of these. I think I'm going to make this a little narrower, to be perfectly honest. There. And then I'm going to go Control J, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all I'm going to have to do is to move these down to where we've got them on each of these rectangles. The snapping will really help us to line them up, but since some of these are crooked, oopsie, we're going to have to move them around like this one. So, and then we need to go 1, 2, 3. Let's get this up a little bit. And let's get this to where it's a little over and down a little bit. And so on. They don't have to be perfect. Well, this one is a little bit less than perfect, so we need to fix that one. And a 1, 2. Give that to where it's going up. Now, since I have that, I'm going to zoom back out, and so this is the base of my bulb, and since we have a lot going on there, I want to take all of these, make sure I have them all, and we are going to group all these together. And since we've grouped them all together, it gives it a little bit cleaner look, and I can move all these and resize them all in one thing. So I'm going to name this base so we know what it is. Now I need the little black thing that you see on the bottom of your bulb. So I'm going to go over here, and all this is an ellipse tool. Make an ellipse and make it elongated like that. And we need a fill for that. So I need to go over to swatches, and it's going to be black. We don't want a stroke, so I'll turn off the stroke and make it black, and then move it to where it's underneath. Now see how it's underneath? I'm going to have to move this down one so that it sits underneath this base. And then all I have to do is take a look at it, and I think I need this to be a little bit smaller. Get it right in the middle like that. And there we have the bottom of the base of our light bulb, and I'm going to now group these two together. So we've got bulb, base. Okay, so we have that part. Now I want to move all this down so it gets kind of in the middle, and I want to make it a little bit smaller like that. And our light bulb is going to go up in the top up here. So we have to have enough room for that, but this isn't, that big of a deal. So all we really have to do is to get the ellipse tool, hold down the shift key so we have a circle like that, and then I'm going to move it over until we have something that looks about like that. Maybe that's a little bit too big. I do a lot of guesswork on this, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so I'm going to make it like that. See if we are okay. According to this, it's lined up. Okay, if you say that. And okay, so now we have that. Obviously, the color of our bulb isn't going to be black. It's going to be hex code F6E0AA. And hopefully that's the right one. And it is. So now we've got the top of the bulb, and all we have to do is to shape it. So before we can do that, I have to convert to curves. So I'll go up here and punch the convert to curves button. And now we have 4 nodes. But we want to put in 2 more. I want to put in one that's in the middle here, right there, and one that's in the middle right here, like that. And then down here, I want to put in a node that matches the width of the base. So I'm going to put in one here, and I'm going to put in one here. And notice the line appears so that you can match them up. Now all you have to do is to now put a box over them and select them all like that. And then you're going to take this one and pull it down. And that's going to give you our bulb. And all you have to do is to just pull it down into the base. So you're going to go down here and you're going to shape it with the handles. And you want to try to use the handles as much as you can. Now over here I moved a node. I should probably not have done that. You want to move the node to where this will set right down here into the base. And I'll click out to see what it looks like. And I think that's going to be fine. I want to maybe make this a little bit smoother. So we can do that. And we can click on this one and do this. It's always a good idea to, when you're doing shapes, to have as few nodes as you can, because having too many nodes, it just messes things up. So now we have a reasonable shape of our light bulb, and it's going to look like that. Now if you want to, you can move the bulb base down to where it's underneath the bulb, so that the bulb will be sitting on top of it. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to move it down 1, and then it's going to look like that. Okay, now let's click out of it, and we have a pretty good light bulb there. Let me click on this and move it over, maybe make it a little bit smaller on both sides to where it looks like it fits a little bit better, and maybe move it up a little bit. Not that much. I think we lost one of our things. No, we didn't. Let me make sure. Yes, we did. Once you make the light bulb, what you're going to find is that it's really not going to matter if it's a little bit off. But I'm kind of liking that bulb, and I think I'm going to do this. Now that we've shaped the light bulb, I'll need to duplicate the bulb. So Control J, and then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm holding down the Shift key so that you know that, so that it doesn't get all out of whack. Just a little bit smaller, and this is where our glow is going to start. First thing, we need to give it a slightly lighter color. You're going to find that toward the end I'm probably going to be changing the colors, but I'm going to make it a little bit lighter so that you can tell that our bulb is in the center. So I'll click out of that, and there we've got a bulb that's kind of yellowish and then a lighter color in here. Now I'm going to go into Effects, and I'm going to give this a Gaussian blur. The Gaussian blur is what's going to give you the sense that your bulb is glowing. So I'm going to give it a lot, actually. And I'm going to, we can always come back and fix it if we hate it. So I'm going to turn it up, the radius up to about that. So now that I have my Gaussian blur, we're going to close that, and then we're going to draw another circle, but this time it's not another bulb, it's going to be a circle like this, and we're going to draw that. Make sure you hold down the Shift key so that you have a circle, and we're going to put it inside, maybe a little bigger than that. Put it inside of the second bulb. So now we have a layer of 3 bulbs. We've got this one, we have this one, and then we have this one. And you do want to make it a little lighter. So now we're going to be turning that up to make it a little lighter. And I think that's a lot lighter actually. And then I'm going to add a Gaussian blur to that. So I'm going to go to Layer Effects and Gaussian blur, and then I'm going to turn this all the way up to 100. Okay, so now I can close that, and now we have our bulb with brighter on the inside, then a little bit less bright, and then the actual light bulb on the outside. Okay, now we need to fix this second bulb because we don't want this down here, so we're going to need to fix that. So I'm going to click on the second bulb, and then I am going to use an overlay for this. So I'm going to use, where is overlay? Okay, so you have overlay, and then I'm going to go with the opacity of about 80% on my bulb, more or less. It doesn't have to be exact. Now what we're going to do with this bulb selected, we're going to go and get the transparency tool, and that's going to get rid of that bottom line. If you can't see it, it's going to be under the gradient tool or the fill tool. So you just click on the little caret, and there's your transparency tool, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to pull down from here all the way down, and then that's going to give you a transparency gradient, and if you click out of that, you're going to find that now this piece down here that was kind of cordoned off is now gone. So all these 3 things have now nested into each other. Now we need an outer glow. To get this, you're going to go to the inner circle like that, and then we want to duplicate it. So we want to go Control J. We want to hold down Shift and then make it to where it's going to cover the whole bulb like that. We don't want to go crazy here. So it's going to cover the whole bulb. We can always adjust how big it is next. So it's going to cover the whole thing. And what we want to do on that big circle is we want to add a diffuse filter. So I'm going to go up to diffuse and then add the diffuse filter, and I'm going to move it up to about 50%. Now keep in mind that since we copied this from this circle down here, it already has a 100% Gaussian blur on it, so we don't have to do any more blurring. And this right here makes us have a really nice blur. So the Gaussian is already there at 100%. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move this circle, let's close this, and we're going to move this under the light bulb. We don't want it sitting on the light bulb, we want it under the light bulb so we can see the yellow part of the light bulb. So I'm going to go Control and Control bracket until we get it under the light bulb. Okay, so this is the basic glow effect. Now, one more thing that I did on this was I duplicated it again to get kind of a better look. So I'm going to go Control J and I'm going to duplicate it again. And what you can do is on this you can try some different blend modes. So I mean, it's whatever you want to do. So let's go in here and let's take a look at some of the blend modes that are kind of interesting. Okay, there's normal. This is what we're starting with. Then pigment. And now we have darken. That kind of defeats the purpose over what we just did. Okay, color burn, linear burn. That looks kind of interesting. Darker color, lighten. Darker color. I'm kind of liking darker color. Lighten, screen. There's color dodge, which kind of gives it a blending from the yellow part of the bulb. Then you have add, lighter color, overlay, soft light. My problem is I really like most of these. Usually I hate all of them except one. Hard light. Okay, let's see what we have down here. Vivid light. This is linear. This is pin. I don't like pin light. Okay, this is hard mix. No, different. Oh, that looks kind of interesting. Exclusion. Now we get down here to subtract and all that. Divide, hue, all that. So I'm just going to go through, since I like almost all of them, I'm going to just pick me one. Pigment, darken, multiply, color burn, linear burn, darker color, lighten. I think I'm going to go with the darker color, lighten. I'm going to go with lighten. Or maybe I'll go with screen. I'll go with screen. I'll choose screen this time. I have no idea what I did in the last 3 trial runs that I did, but I'm going to stick with this, and that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. This is, I think, what we're going to be settling with right here. So here's our bulb, and it's glowing, and sometimes I think one of these, I really wouldn't mind if it was maybe a little bit more blurred. I'm going to turn this up a little bit and see if that looks better. Yeah, I'm liking that better. So that's a little bit more blurred, and I'm going to stick with all the things I did, and this is the one that we're going to be using. So I'm going to turn my rectangle off, and now you can see why I use the rectangle, because you can't see anything in the back. So what we're going to do is to group the bulb parts together, because we're going to be copying and pasting our bulb parts on our picture. Okay, so there are all the bulb parts, and you want to right click and you want to group them all together, and so now you have one bulb, and so there's the bulb, and then we want to right click and we're going to copy, and then we're going to go over here to nighttime scene, and then we're going to right click and we're going to paste it, and there it is right there. So now all we have to do is to resize it. We're going to be resizing this a little bit, and we want to flip it upside down, because obviously we're not going to screw it in that way. So I just right clicked and I'm going to transform and then flip vertical, and now our bulb is flipped vertically. So we're going to reduce the bulb. We're going to put it up there, make it smaller, and move it around, and we're going to just screw it in. Now obviously that's still too big, so we're going to make it smaller. I mean, it's got to fit in the cage. So we're going to just go and move that thing right in there. And let's see what it looks like. Needs to be smaller. Reduce the size of the bulb. I'm moving it with my arrow keys. We need to make it to where it looks really that it's screwed in. And okay, I'm going to name this bulb over here. Okay, so we need to make it smaller, and now I want to make this larger. I'm going to make this bigger. So really I'm resizing both of these so that it fits inside the cage, the bulb rather. Okay, let me get my bulb again and just make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so now we have our bulb that I think should be a little bit in there. Okay, so now we have the bulb that's been put inside the bulb housing up there. Okay, so once you've adjusted the bulb the way you want, this probably should be a little smaller, and I suspect that when I come back to my next video, you're going to see a different size bulb in there. I'll fiddle around with it a little bit. The part where the bulb screws in and the bulb itself have been resized, and actually I think this looks pretty good. So in this video we learned how to create a light bulb that glows so we could add it to our scene. But we can't rest now. We have one more week to wrap this project up. So remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay informed when the final video of the series drops. If you missed the creation of this scene, click on the video right here.